In retrospect, have you had more time to think about what y'all accomplished and maybe some more insights to it?
I think we knew when we finished that game and went into the locker room. It didn't dawn on us later what we, accomplished. I think there was a sense of we felt like we should accomplish that, although we weren't the one that was supposed to win. We feel very confident in our abilities, and I thought, other than the third quarter when they went to the zone, that we were in control of the game, and that's what you have to do when you're on the road. We kept the crowd out of it until, they went on their run in the third quarter. We got fatigued, missed a lot of shots, had a couple of turnovers, couldn't substitute on the perimeter because I kept Ryan back here to do some more rehab on her ankle, and it was gutsy. It was gutsy there. And I think, again, like I said last night, it started with Kayla Pointer. She had a turnover, missed 2 free throws, gets a shot blocked, and I know she's sitting there going, I'm the one that's supposed to get us over this hump. And then with a matter of seconds, she wins the game for you on clutch 3. And that's the beauty of our game, is it moves fast, and you have to have a short-term memory.
Well, you mentioned fatigue. Were there any concerns about the zone that caused y'all problems?
No. Listen, we're going to see zones. I take that as a respect deal. You go to a zone most of the time when you can't guard people in man. I'm living proof of that. I had to do that in '05 to beat LSU. It just takes you a moment to adjust to it, and a lot of people believe this. You play a zone when you're playing against great perimeter shooting teams. Now, I've never been a coach that believes that, but a lot of coaches will sit here and explain it to you that way, particularly if they're great zone coaches. They're like, no, throw a zone at them. Those guys are good coming off screens. Those guys are good stop. They're not good set in a set where you got to set, and so I just have always had the philosophy that if you're going to make a shot, you're going to do it with a hand in your face, and zones sometimes expose you. I believe zones can sometimes make great shooters look better than they are, because that's about the only thing in the game that they can do is spot up and shoot a ball, and so I wasn't surprised to, I shouldn't say this, I was surprised to see it against that particular team who doesn't do it much, but I will never be surprised to see it as we go down the road. Let's start with A&M. You're going to see zone, zone, zone. How about a change in philosophy for Gary Blair? He had Vic Schaefer on his staff for years, full court man-to-man, hard-nosed press defense, and now all of a sudden he's this big zone coach. All of a sudden his 3 perimeter players have the highest percentage from the 3 than anybody, in the country. Just a change in your philosophy, and I'm assuming it's based on your coaches, and I'm assuming certainly it's based upon the personnel you have on that floor.
Is Ryan available
Yeah,
Sunday?
She just tweaked her ankle, and it's only a grade 1 sprain, but if you limp, you don't play. If you limp, you don't practice. And she was still limping around on it. A lot of that is her threshold of pain. Some kids can play on it, some can't, and I'm just not. I'm very conservative. I err on the side of being conservative with injuries.
And would you speak a little more on A&M, what you expect?
Well, you're going to see, they won the league last year with South Carolina. I think they tied, and this year their 2 losses are to TCU and Texas. And they shoot the 3, those 3 kids, Wells, Nixon, and Pitts. I mean, they light you up. And it's not how many they shoot, it's how well they shoot it. And we've got our hands full, and we feel like we'll see zone, 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 and zone. He'll press you some, but it's more of a zone press. His strength are his perimeter players.
Just looking at the roster, obviously this is not a revelation, but you have so many graduate students and seniors, playing key roles. How has that aided the process of trying to establish what you want to establish as a program?
Our roster?
Yeah.
Well, our roster starts with those 3 kids that stayed here. They didn't transfer out. They stayed here. And then you go to the couple that I brought in here, and then there were a couple that had transferred already in here, like Autumn. Yeah, it helps you. Experience, there's no substitute for experience. And the experience on that floor when it was gut checking time last night surfaced. And you had 3 of those experienced players from Georgia, and so they were a little bit probably more motivated than others. But if you look at A&M's roster, look how many transfers he has. It's the nature of the business now. Transfer portal is a big part of our everyday life. You got to go look at it.
Hey, Coach, how did last night's game kind of prepare you going into this weekend?
Every time you play in the SEC, it prepares you for the next game. What it doesn't prepare you for is different styles of play. We're going to see a totally different style of play. You're going to see more perimeter shooters that can, score the ball out there than Georgia. You're going to see all zone versus the very little zone we saw in the third quarter last night. But the intensity, the passion, the importance of that game in the moment prepares you for the next one.
And is the energy just a little bit different now that it's conference play?
I think our players are playing with that same amount of energy. I think the energy probably ramps up a little bit in the stands. You saw when our men went to Auburn, how tough environment that was. Well, I hope we have that same environment come Sunday, because people should be excited about what we did last night, and hopefully we'll have that home court advantage.
And just talking about Pointer a little bit, how valuable has she been for you and the team thus far?
Well, I'm going to go back to last night. I've said it two or three times. She doesn't get rattled. She knows that she has the ability to get you over the hump. She has the ability to make a big play, as some of the others do. But the ball's in her hand. And when we were trying to hold on to that lead there late in the fourth quarter, she turned it over. Well, that's your All-SEC performer. I want the ball in her hands. So I wouldn't do anything different. That's life. She missed 2 free throws, and then she got her shot blocked. And it's getting down to 2.5 minutes to go in the game, and we're down now. I think we're down 1. She wasn't afraid to take the big shot. And after you have those 3 things happen, I could see it on her face. It was like, my bad, guys, my bad. But when she had the opportunity to hit a wide open shot, she was clutch, and she made it. And I explained to them in the timeouts that were taken there late, that's what you do. That's what you do. When you're a great player, you fail 90% of the time taking that last second shot, but you still want to take it. It wasn't a last second shot, but it was a big shot.
And just one more, sorry, I know he has the mic now. What is that trust just kind of say about you and your players in this team, just having that trust?
Well, that comes with time. You learn to love each other with time. You can't tell somebody you love them and you just met them. You learn to love, you learn to trust, you learn to respect, you learn to have each other's backs. And the longer we're together and the more we go to battle with each other, you earn that.
Kim, you talked about playing just 6 players, but even if you'd had Ryan, that's 7. You tend to more 8 and 9. What
Well,
was the
8 and 9,
genesis?
let me help you there. 8 and 9 were Hannah Gusters in Iowa. I was coming off COVID. She hadn't even been on the practice floor, really. So she went in last night a little bit rusty, cost us a bucket on an inbounds. And then Hannah was coming off 4-game suspension. I thought Hannah did fine. She was in the game when we needed free throws made. We got the ball in her hand. She goes down and nails 1 of 2 free throws. Those kids will be fine. All right, we good? Everybody good? All right.
We got to be better in the exchange zone on the relays there, Jim. I'm kidding. I'm curious how the process of learning your players and learning who you can count on came to be this year. Obviously, you went back. I'm sure you watched film of all what you could find last year and stuff like that. But I mean, this had to. I guess it's still a little
Early.
Yeah, it's still early, and obviously it's come together very well to this point.
Practice, Scott. I know there's an old adage, people, practice. Practice? Practice means a great deal to me. And particularly when you're a new coach and you inherit players. I learn every day something about each one of them. I learn how far I can push one. I learn which ones need to be hugged more, which ones turn the ball over, which ones get down on themselves. And it takes time, but our window is so small on when I got with them in October when we started, or, when we started school, that you have to really focus and concentrate. Some of it is not teaching your X's and O's. I've got a whole board and they look at it and they go, we gotta learn all that? I said, at some point we do. It's looking for little things. Who's my defensive stopper here? Now, if she gets in foul trouble, who am I gonna put on her? Those things are stuff that I'm studying every day in practice. I may miss something on an execution of a play because I'm watching how a kid reacts on something else. That's what you do. And it's easy, but it's hard. It's harder when you have a lot of depth. It's easier when you go, these are the ones I have, and these are the ones that have to play, and let's figure out how we can compete with these that we have. We didn't have a lot of depth last night, so thank goodness we knew going in what each of them was capable of doing. Guys, Cherry got us off to a great start. Now, she got fatigued there in the third quarter, as did the others, because I didn't have a substitute on the perimeter, but that kid, she's playing lights out on nailing mid-range jump shots and defending people. We ask a lot of her. She's always having to guard the best player on the other team and then come down and, knock down a jump shot. You don't see many girls that shoot jump shots. LSU's had a great deal of them. Chloe Jackson was a great mid-range jump shooter. She's a great mid-range jump shooter. They either shoot the long ball or they shoot layups. But you don't see mid-range jump shots in the NBA. I mean, it's like, oh, that's a terrible thing to be able to do.
Kim, you mentioned Iowa.
That's all right.
You mentioned Iowa. Do you have anybody else that has that?
Amani, but she's back today. I don't know when I'll see Amani. Amani's been in Houston. She got it when she was at home. They tell me she comes back today, but they got to go through that cardiology stuff, work yourself back into it. I don't know.
Time for one more question, Steve.
Apologize if you already talked about this. I was here like 20 minutes early, but the doors were locked, so.
Okay.
If you've already talked about it, you can just say I already talked about it. But
I
at
can.
the end of the game,
What now?
at the end of the game, the way you finished, how much of that had to do with conditioning? And how much did it have to do with playing defense without fouling the entire game?
I would say the 3-2 zone they went to made us shoot perimeter shots. We didn't have many post touches. We talked about that in the timeout. Whether they shoot it or not, got to have post touches. Got to be a threat in there. Great move on their part. They don't play zone much. We settled for perimeter shots. The perimeter shots we took were not bad ones. They were just short. They were off. We were fatigued. And when you play zone defense, the one thing it does do for you, it allows you to run and you get offensive transition buckets. So they started doing that. And then the crowd got into it. So we weathered that storm and we get in the bonus pretty darn quick. So we know we got 4 or 5 fouls to give. If I told them when we got the lead back, I said, if you're beat off the dribble, you foul them on the floor. Don't give up a 3-point play. But we got fouls to give. And that was so crucial because they are quick. For us, it wasn't because we weren't playing, defense. We're going to guard you. I just thought Autumn Newby, undersized post player inside, she was pulling the chair out from them. She wouldn't let them touch the ball. She got a lot of deflection. She got a lot of steals. She just didn't allow herself to get buried deep down there.